10 movies that inspired real crimes. 10. The Collector. A book before it was a movie, The Collector by John Fowles is one of the key novels of the 1960s. It's the story of a lonesome butterfly-collecting nobody, Frederick Clegg, who admires an art student named Miranda, but hasn't a hope of a relationship with her because he has zero social skills. Clegg watches Miranda from afar, and his obsession with her grows. He comes into some money, buys a house in the country, equips it with a cellar, then kidnaps her and plans to keep her there until she falls in love with him. There's just one problem. She never does. Instead, she tries to escape, tries to seduce him, and plots to kill him. Eventually, she sickens and dies, and he starts looking for another pretty brunette to collect. In 1985, Leonard Lake, already obsessed with The Collector, abducted 2 teenagers, Kathy Allen and Brenda O'Connor, and kept them in a soundproof bunker, raping and torturing them with his associate Charles Eng. Lake even called his abduction plot Operation Miranda. In 1988, serial killer Robert Berdella claimed that seeing The Collector as a teenager had prompted him to imprison several men and photograph their torture before killing them. While imprisoned, he said the movie made a, quote, lasting impression on him. 9. London After Midnight. London After Midnight is a 1927 silent horror mystery film starring Lon Chaney, directed by Todd Browning, who also directed Freaks, and produced by MGM. It has a weird razor-toothed vampire, a haunted castle, and a spooky-eyed goth girl. And it's one of the first movies to inspire a real-life murder. Around the time the movie came out, Welsh carpenter Robert Williams attacked and killed an Irish homemaker, Julia Mangan, in Hyde Park with a razor. He tried to kill himself immediately after the incident, but he survived. He was brought to trial where he alleged that Chaney's London After Midnight makeup drove him to insanity. He was sentenced to death but was later reprieved. How convincing was Chaney? Well, we may never know. In 1967, a single nitrate-based 35mm print of the movie, along with its original camera negative, was being stored at MGM's Vault No. 7 in Culver City. An electric spark ignited all the flammable nitrate-based film stored there, and a massive fire erupted. The vault burned to the ground, and London After Midnight has apparently been lost forever. 8. Halloween. In 2013, a teen claimed that the 2007 version of Halloween, directed by Rob Zombie, inspired him in the slaying of 2 members of his family. Evans killed his 48-year-old mother, Jamie Evans, and his 15-year-old sister, Mallory, inside their upscale Alito, Texas home on October 3, 2012. In a 4-page written confession that was released to the media, Evans said he watched Halloween 3 times that week. Quote, I started watching Rob Zombie's Halloween. In the movie, a 12-year-old boy murders his stepfather, sister, and his sister's boyfriend. While watching it, I was amazed at how at ease the boy was during the murders and how little remorse he had afterward. I was thinking to myself, it would be the same for me when I kill someone. In 2015, Evans was sentenced to 45 years in prison after pleading guilty to the crimes. According to the terms of the sentence, he must serve a little more than 22 years in prison before he is eligible for parole. Of his motives for the crime, he said, quote, when I look at people, especially teenagers, I see them as being very cruel to one another emotionally. It seems that their favorite hobby is picking on someone else. The people who are racists, bullies, and who are full of themselves are the really evil ones. And it amazes me because those 3 qualities are extremely common today. I was very sad because I felt that my own family were becoming the people I hate. I know now that I'm done with killing. It's the most dreadful and terrifying thing I have ever experienced and will haunt me forever. 7. Natural Born Killers. Natural Born Killers, written by Quentin Tarantino and directed by Oliver Stone, was meant as a satire about the media's obsession with and inadvertent glorification of violence. However, some viewers missed the point. Over a dozen murderers have cited natural-born killers as being influential, most notably Dylan Klebold and Eric Harris, the gunman in the Columbine High School massacre. Harris referred to April 20th, 1999, the day he and Klebold murdered 12 students and one teacher, as the holy morning of NBK. In discussing how Hollywood would eventually adapt their story, the boys had hoped that Tarantino or Steven Spielberg would direct. In a journal entry dated April 10, 1998, Harris wrote, quote, "When I go NBK and people say things like, oh, it was so tragic, or, oh, he is crazy, or it was so bloody, just because your mommy and daddy told you blood and violence is bad, you think it's a fucking law of nature? Wrong. Only science and math are true. Everything, and I mean every fucking thing else, is man-made. Before I leave this worthless place, I will kill whoever I deem unfit for anything at all, especially life." The massacre ended with both perpetrators committing suicide. 6. Child's Play 3. Robert Thompson and John Venables were 10 years old when they kidnapped and brutally murdered 2-year-old James Bulger in Liverpool in 1993. Thompson and Venables snatched the toddler from a shopping mall and took him to a railway line where they beat and sexually assaulted the young boy. They left Bulger's mutilated body on the railway tracks to die. Thompson and Venables were supposedly inspired by the horror film Child's Play 3. The killer doll movies caused a great deal of controversy in the United Kingdom, as well as a public outcry for tightening video nasties. 5. A Clockwork Orange. The story of A Clockwork Orange is as infamous as any in film history, and the backlash was so fierce that Stanley Kubrick voluntarily withdrew it from distribution in the UK because of threats to him and his family. There have been numerous cases of copycat crimes in regards to A Clockwork Orange, such as a gang of young boys beating a homeless man to death, mirroring an early scene from the film. More notoriously, a girl was gang raped by a group of men who were singing "Singin' in the Rain" while committing the act, imitating the actions of Alex and his droogs in A Clockwork Orange's most infamous scene. Its association with these crimes hurt the film and Kubrick massively, and the film remained banned and locked away until the great director's death in 1999. 4. Scream. Wes Craven's 1996 film was a groundbreaking moment in horror movie history, a tongue-in-cheek parody of the genre's tropes that still managed to be horrifying. It was also, according to an American judge, a, quote, very good source to learn how to kill someone, and it did indeed inspire a series of copycat murders. The most notorious was that of a Belgian teen, Alison Cambier. She had befriended 24-year-old Thierry Jaredin and was visiting him in his home one day when he propositioned her. After she refused, he excused himself and went to another room where he donned the iconic Ghostface costume. He selected 2 large knives, which he used to stab Cambier 30 times in the same manner of the victim in the film's opening scene. After the deed was done, he made a few phone calls, confessed to the crime, and later admitted to police that he'd planned the incident modeled after the film. Authorities were baffled by Jaredin's actions, given that he had no criminal record or history of mental illness, except apparently a habit of trying to pick up 15-year-old girls. 3. Saw. A Salt Lake City mother turned in her son and his friend after she overheard them plotting to kidnap, torture, and murder several people. The 2 boys, aged 14 and 15, had detailed plans to set up games in the Saw style in order to teach a lesson to people they claimed were harming others, including a police officer and 2 middle school girls. The boys even told police that they had procured cameras and camcorders to document the murders, just as Jigsaw did in the movie. Meanwhile, in Tennessee, 2 teenage girls found themselves in hot water after what they claimed was a prank gone wrong. A 52-year-old woman received a voicemail in the Saw style stating that a friend had been hidden in her home and that the caller was about to release the toxic gas they had rigged inside. She had to decide whether to save herself or risk saving her friend. When she received the message, it came at the worst possible time, during a funeral procession. The woman was so terrified that she suffered a stroke. She recovered, but the girls were charged with phone harassment. 2. Interview with a Vampire. Daniel Sterling and his girlfriend of 8 years, Lisa Stellwagen, watched the movie together on November 17, 1994. That night, Lisa woke up at about 3 o'clock a.m. to find Daniel staring at her. He told her, quote, "Tonight you're going to die. I'm going to kill you and drink your blood." At which point she apparently rolled over and went back to sleep, possibly murmuring, "That's nice, dear," because it wasn't until later that day that Daniel stabbed her 7 times and sucked the blood from her wounds. No word on why she didn't run out of bed screaming when he initially made the threat, like a normal person probably would have. But Daniel was kind enough to make it clear that he didn't blame the movie, although he admitted it did influence his plan. The jury didn't buy it as a defense, though, and convicted him of attempted first-degree murder, among several other charges. 1. The Dark Knight. Everyone knows about the tragedy in Colorado and the orange-haired man who cried, "I am the Joker," before shooting up a movie theater full of Batman fans in 2012. But he's not the only Joker-inspired maniac who wanted to watch the world burn. In 2010, a Wisconsin man was sentenced to almost a year in jail after he broke into his cousin's home and assaulted him while dressed as the Joker. The man had suspected his cousin of sleeping with his ex-girlfriend and attacked the two of them when he found them in bed together. It's doubtful the Joker would approve, because while that's a terrible motive, it makes entirely too much sense for an insane character like the Joker. A much more Joker-like incident occurred in 2009, when a teacher fended off an attack from an Indiana high school student. The girl came at the teacher with a razor blade, but not before she excused herself to the bathroom to apply Joker-style makeup and slice her cheeks into his trademark smile.